Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we actually are going to continue algebraic equations. We left off last time talking about writing one variable equations, and we reviewed basically words that mean equals and like is, total, the same as. Um, I added another word, results, because when you talk about results, that means it's going to equal to it at the end. We also talked about some words that mean the different operations. I added actually a couple more words to that, like the word less, less than for subtraction, and then the word per for multiplication. And together we added equally separated, and so I will leave that one there. As all of these words give you hints or clues to know to use that operation. Okay, last time we talked about, when we're reading the situations and we're looking at the word problems, we're trying to figure out what is missing, what is the relationship between the numbers, like can you use some of your prior knowledge to figure out, what am I going to do with these numbers? And then how can I use that information to write an equation using a variable? We went over the situation with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we talked about his total, or his points, plus the team's total points is equal to 107 points, which the entire team made. And then we talked about the bats, that they can eat 2.5 times their weight, and that equals 25 pounds that this bat is eating at this time. And so we talked about how writing numbers next to a variable means multiplication. And then we also discussed this problem where we had a class of students and they were separated, which meant division, into 4 equal groups, and that resulted in 6 students per team. So at this time, let's talk about this problem. Ashley's car travels 24 miles per gallon of gas, and I'm going to highlight some key information. 24 miles per gallon of gas. If the car travels 360 miles, write an equation to find G, and G is going to stand for the gallons of gas used. Now, when we see the word per, if we go back to our little help sheet, per means multiplication. And so it's kind of like when you're thinking of wages, when you earn money, usually when you start off earning money, you earn dollars per hour. And so like if I'm babysitting and I'm earning, $8 per hour, then that means that I'm taking 8 and I'm multiplying it by how many hours that I am working. And that will, let me know how much I should be paid at that time. Okay, and so same thing with this. I have 24 miles per gallon of gas. And so I'm going to write that down. I have 24 miles per, and G is going to stand for gallons. And then it says that Ashley's car traveled 360 miles. Well, if the car travels this amount, that means that's the total miles. So I'm going to put equals 360. And at this time, it looks like I have a number on both sides. I have an operation and I have a variable. So it looks like I'm done. This is my equation. I know that gallons is missing. So what is missing? Gallons. What's the relationship? Well, I know that if I take 24 times the number of gallons, I'm going to get the total miles that were traveled. And then I already wrote my equation using a variable. So the next one says each winter humpback whales migrate 1,500 miles to the Indian Ocean. So I am going to copy that. 1,500 miles to the Indian Ocean, which is just amazing. I can't even believe they travel that many miles in a season. That just seems so far. Now read this information if you think that's far. It says, however, one whale migrated 5,000 miles. So even further in one season. How many miles further than normal did this whale travel? Well, we know that miles is missing because we're trying to figure out how many additional miles did this amazing wonder whale travel to get 5,000 miles compared to the normal humpback whale, which travels 1,500 miles. And so we have to write down, first of all, a normal whale travels 1,500 miles. Then this one whale travels 5,000 miles. And now we need to figure out how much in addition, how many miles are in addition to get to that 5,000. So we're trying to figure out additional miles. Well, if I go back to my little chart and I find in addition, well, that means addition. I'm going to use addition. And so let's go back and we're going to put 1,500 miles plus additional miles, and miles is missing, so I'm going to use M for miles. So a normal whale travels 1,500 plus additional miles is equal to this one wonder whale that traveled 5,000 miles. And that is my equation. Let's move on to another one. It says Janine, who bought $15 worth of makeup. She bought $15 of makeup. She spent $6 less than Leah spent. Do we know what Leah spent? No, so we can actually say, well, what did Leah spend? Well, because we know that her amount is what's missing. Okay, we don't actually need to solve it for this problem, but we do need to write an equation using the information that was given to us to at least set it up so that if someone wanted to solve it, they could. And so we know that there was $15 total that was spent, because that's what Janine spent. And it says that Janine spent $6 less than Leah. Well, we don't know how much Leah spent, so we're going to put L for Leah. And here's my key words. It says less than. Well, if I go back to my chart, where is it? There it is. If I go back to my chart, less than, subtraction. So I know that I need to use subtraction to show that Janine is spending $6 less than what Leah had. And if you think of the word less just by definition means that it is smaller than. That means you've taken away an amount and it's smaller than the previous amount. And so Leah spends a certain amount, but Janine spends $6 less than that amount. So we're subtracting $6, and that will equal $15 because that's what Janine spent. Okay, so Leah, we got to find, and we could find her amount, but we don't need to. We just need to know that we set up an equation, and we did. We found what was missing, which was Leah. We are subtracting 6 because of the words less than. And then this is the total amount that Janine spent. Now your ticket problems, you have 2 problems to do, or actually 1 problem that I would like for you to do, and it is this one. It says Mike, who has 6 video games, has half as many games as Paul. okay? And so we could even say how many video games. Oh, and I need to move this over. How many video games does Paul have? I could ask that question for anybody that wanted to solve it, but we are basically setting up a problem with this information. So your job is to determine how, like, what equation could you use to get to the point in which that you could figure out what Paul has. Because Mike has 6 video games, that's his total number of video games. And this is half as many. Now the word half, let me talk about that. When you take a half of something, what do you do? Like if I have half of 3 lollipops, how do I take a half of them? And actually we'll make it even easier. I could say I have 4 lollipops. How do I take a half of these? Exactly. I divide by 2. I take half of them away. So I separate them into 2 equal parts and I take one of those parts away. And that's what a half means. So with that clue for you, will you write an equation for this? And this is your ticket problem. And it's only one ticket problem because it's a word problem, and word problems always take a little additional time. Thank you so much for joining me at Carlton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again to learn some new information.